It's 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Liz, would you call the roll, please?
David Burris.
Here.
Wes Grimes.
Here.
J.R. Huddleston.
Here.
Bill Lukens.
Here.
Larry Pratt.
Here.
Craig Romey.
Present.
Caitlin Turner.
Here.
Thank you.
Will you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next agenda item for us is the oath of office for your newly elected officials. Looks like I'm up first.
I think you're up first. Okay, go easy. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Bob Nelson,
I, Bob Nelson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and the ordinances of the City of Hot Springs,
and the ordinances of the City of Hot Springs,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of mayor
the duties of mayor
for the City of Hot Springs
for the City of Hot Springs
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If we want, we can do them one by one, or we can do Bill, Caitlin, JR, and Wes all together. How would you prefer?
Let's do them all together, please.
All right. I'll say I, and then we'll just go one by one, and you'll say your name, and then we'll say the rest together. How's that sound? Okay. Larry, we're going to start with you, and we're going to go this way. After I say I, then you'll say your name. Put it up. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I,
Larry Pratt. Bill Lukens. That's correct. Johnny R. Huddleston.
Caitlin Turner, do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and the ordinances of the City of Hot Springs,
and the ordinances of the City of Hot Springs,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of alderman
the duties of alderman
for the City of Hot Springs
for the City of Hot
to
Springs
the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. Next agenda item for us is to appoint someone to fill the one-year term in Ward 4. And I've had discussions with each of you individually about how you wanted to do that. And the majority opinion is you wanted to appoint Deborah Johnston to fill that one-year term. So if I could get a motion to do that.
I would like to entertain a motion that we accept Deborah Johnson as the appointee for.
Second. Can't hear you very well.
Ward.
Ward 4.
Ward 4.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll abstain from the vote.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Deborah, would you join the council, please? Congratulations.
Get settled in, and then we'll do the same thing.
States,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and the City of Hot Springs ordinances,
and the City of Hot Springs ordinances,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of alderman
the duties of alderman
for the City of Hot Springs
for the City of Hot Springs
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That takes us to selecting your president of the council and vice president of the council. So the first one we'll cover is president. Does anyone have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Bill Lukens for president.
I'll second that nomination.
I'd like to nominate Dave Burris.
I don't think we need a second for him.
I would like to nominate Craig.
I missed the middle nomination.
Dave Burris.
Any other nominations? So we have Bill, Dave, and Craig. All right. Misty, if you would go around and let's see who we got going here. The reason we're doing it differently from what we have in the past as far as secret ballots, we've had an opinion from 2 attorneys that whatever we do up here needs to meet the open meeting laws. So when people are making decisions, the public needs to know what those decisions are if they're not within executive session. Great.
Okay, we'll go around the room. Call out, we have Bill Lukens, Dave Burris, and Craig Romey. Dave Burris,
Bill.
Wes Grimes,
Craig.
J.R. Huddleston,
Bill.
Deborah Johnston,
Bill.
Bill Lukens,
Bill.
Larry Pratt.
Yeah.
Bill.
Thank you. Craig Romey,
Well, I'd say Craig, but everybody's going with Bill, so.
to be clear, you're voting for Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. Caitlin Turner.
Bill.
All right, Bill Lukens, our new council president. Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations or condolences? Except both. All right, that takes us to vice president. Make some nominations for who you'd like to be your council vice president.
Nominate Dave Burris.
I second that. I second that.
Once again, I'm going to nominate Craig. He's got the most experience.
Any other nominations? All right, so the 2 nominations before you for council vice president is Dave and Craig. Misty?
David Burris,
Craig.
Wes Grimes,
Craig.
J.R. Huddleston,
Dave.
Deborah Johnston,
Dave.
Bill Lukens,
Dave.
Larry Pratt,
Dave.
Craig Romey,
I'm gonna go with Craig this time.
Caitlin Turner.
Dave.
All right, you have 5-3 for Dave.
All right. Congratulations, Dave.
Dave, council vice president.
Thank you.
Before we go on to our next agenda item, I'd just like to take a moment to thank past council members that just got off the council and Mayor Cotty for the time that they've served their community. For the council people that have been on before, you know that this job will consume as much time as you allow it to. So I want to thank you all personally for taking the time to step up and want to represent your community and get it going forward. So thank you very much. All right, as we get into the meat of the agenda, I'm reminding everyone if you have any conflict of interest items, please let the council know before you vote on anything. I need a motion to approve the agenda with one amendment. Under new business, we're deleting item B. That's entered into the contract, a contract with the VA to remove the rock that came from their property and is now in our flood channel. The VA is asking for some changes to the contracts that John has been working on. So we need a little more time to get the wording right in those contracts so the VA is happy with them and we're happy with them. So we need a motion to approve the agenda with deleting item B under new business.
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda with the removal of new business item B.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 15th council meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 15th council meeting.
That's second.
But I'd like to strike the last sentence on the paragraph, and I'd like to add that was not found guilty of the traffic violation he was ticketed for, which was moved overlong. Judge ordered him to pay court cost. I don't think what the old mayor said was proper. So,
Craig, can you help me see where you're at?
on the old minutes,
Yep.
it was right under communications from the public.
Okay.
Can you tell me the word you recommend it stop at?
Department, police department. Last sentence.
Oh, no, your change. You were recommending striking the last paragraph, last sentence?
Yeah.
So it would go through officer?
The mayor noted, and then go through police department. Is there only one sentence there?
That's two.
Yeah. Just read to me what you're recommending it say, please.
The mayor noted the incident that has been recorded on officer's body camera and could be the grounds for future reprisal actions against Hot Springs Police Department.
Okay, thank you.
So your motion is to approve the minutes by and striking the last
Striking
sentence.
that and adding what I said.
All right. We have a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Second. Dave,
Thank you, sorry.
discussion?
I guess my concern with that is this is minutes of the meeting and that was said. Whether it's agreed with or not, it was said, so.
Any other comments? All those in favor of Craig's motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Was that everyone else besides Craig?
No.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Roll call vote, please.
Okay, so this is, who's voting in favor of Craig's motion? Dave Burris?
Nay.
That was a no.
No.
Wes Grimes?
I was voting yes.
Thank you. J.R. Huddleston?
No.
Deborah Johnston? No. Bill Lukens?
No.
Larry Pratt?
No.
Craig Romey?
Yeah.
Caitlin Turner?
No.
Okay, so the motion to approve those minutes did not pass.
All right. Takes us into our claims.
Nope, we still got to approve the minutes. The way they're written.
Oh, all right.
Sorry.
That's fine. So we need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 15th council meeting.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 5th council meeting.
I second motion.
Any discussion?
Did JR make that second?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Mayor, just to clarify, I think, like Robert's Rules of Order, if you're opposed, say nay or no. Yeah, because if you're saying, everybody's saying aye, it kind of gets confusing.
Nay.
That's just my recommendation.
Thank you. All right, bills in between. Need a motion to approve the bills in between for $197,385.01.
Make a motion to approve the bills in between July 6, 2020 for the sum of $197,385.01.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed?
Wes?
Yes.
Need a motion to approve the current claims?
I make a motion to approve the current claims, in the amount of $76,720.71.
Second.
Can I have some discussion on that?
Yep, any discussion?
This is the learning curve coming up here. Couple questions of, like, is all the food and the beer, is that like the Evans Plunge and the golf course stuff, or who's getting picnics?
Nobody's having any picnics.
Okay.
And specific questions on the claims, if you tell me the page and identify, and you'll notice some numbers on each of them, and those will tell you whether it's the plunge or the golf course, and I'll get you a list of those.
Okay.
So our Pro Shop and Evans Plunge both serve food to the public. So a lot of that you're probably seeing belongs to one of those two. The Evans Plunge Fund starts with 621, and it's listed on the back of the payments and totals. It gives you a fund summary and tells you what each of those numbers mean, and 620 is the golf course.
Okay.
And then I'm always available after you get your packets. We have several council members that will either come in and review the claims or ask specific questions prior to the meeting. We can pull out invoices and look at it and talk about any questions you have.
And is that also where the international cigars are going to?
That is the Pro Shop.
That's the Pro Shop.
Yeah, and those are for resales.
Okay. And is this the place where I could ask, I was under the understanding that the city was now not using pesticides, and I see that we've got sales for, or we bought pesticides. We only bought 1 gallon of agricultural strength vinegar, and the rest were pesticides.
We have a drum of industrial strength vinegar that we use in the street department throughout the city.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that was golf course or Pro Shop or somewhere specific, but I don't believe the council ever passed a motion to not use pesticides either. I think it was a recommendation to not use it in our parks, and they started using vinegar.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, great question. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Nay.
Takes us to Wells Fargo credit card claims. Need a motion to approve those.
Make a motion to approve Wells Fargo's credit card claims for $1,212.72.
I second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed?
The reason I went nay all three on those, I didn't spend any of that money, so I'm not going to vote to approve it. That's just my thinking.
That's fine. I'm just going to pause here for a little bit. We're less than a minute away from a 7:20 public hearing. All right. So we have a public hearing at 7:20 p.m. To review a use permit on review for Carol L. Wilson, owner, Michelle Adcock, tenant, to operate a home preschool daycare at 702 Houston Avenue in Hot Springs. Michelle, are you here?
It's Melanie.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have that wrong on the agenda. That's my bad. Sorry, Melanie. I typed that in wrong.
If you'd be so good as to put one of the little plastic baggies on the microphone for us, please. And I'll help you remember when you're done. Go ahead and take it with you. All right, is there anything you'd like to share with the council before they ask you questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Council, do you have any questions for Melanie?
I'm assuming this all went through the planning and zoning and meets the use on review requirements?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay?
I've got a few questions. Is it Michelle?
Melanie.
Melanie, I'm sorry. Within our Title 15, Chapter 155.04 of our zoning code, regarding the permit on review, it states that daycare facilities, the facility's operations and maintenance shall meet the requirements of South Dakota Codified Law 26-6 regulating daycare facilities and local zoning regulations. Are you familiar with the requirements of Chapter 26-6?
Yeah, I went over all of that zoning stuff and went through, I worked with Mary in the city office to get everything where it should be.
Okay, and have you looked at the state requirements?
Yeah, I'm working with Tina Euchre. And with the COVID stuff, we actually have 190 days for her to come and walk through. And so she's coming the end of July.
Okay,
She's with the state.
Yeah. Yep.
great.
She's in the Rapid City office. I did have, I can't think of her name, with Child and Protective Services because they need me to watch one of their kids. So she walked through actually last week to make sure it was up to be able to watch a child in their services.
Okay, so you'll actually be operating a facility that receives state funds.
Yes.
So you get the joy of truly falling under all the, congratulations. So I'm sorry, I've kind of got my questions scripted here, so I'm going to go ahead and get on the list. So has the person from the state or you completed the self-inspection of the facility for family daycare?
Yeah.
The 7 pages of yes, no?
Yeah.
Have you developed an emergency preparedness and response plan for your facility?
We're working on that still because with the little kids, we've done the fire drills, we've done the tornado drills and stuff. I'm working with, you don't want to scare the little kids with stranger danger, so we play a hide and seek game. So we're working on that one right now, and then like where we would go and stuff, so.
Okay. And have you and anybody that'll work with you completed the online South Dakota Child Care Provider Orientation Training?
I've completed that several times. I actually have my associate's degree in early childhood.
Okay. Do you guys plan on putting a fence?
Yeah, I called the 811 number and only Quest came out. So my son and I are working on, because we know when Quest came out, they said fiber optics were put in, but nobody came and marked where those lines are, and I don't want to interrupt them. So we're working on getting who else we need to call.
I thought I saw some flags in your yard today, so
Yeah,
looks like somebody's paying attention to you.
trying to get the kids to leave those alone until we get it up is,
Good luck. Okay, thank you. That was all the questions I had.
Melanie, is Carol Wilson going to be a partner in this?
no, she's just the owner of the property.
How come she did the request?
Because our ordinance requires the property owner to request it.
Okay. I thought it was the request with the property owner, her and the property.
It is. Yep, so she's requesting it, but Carol has to sign as the property owner, because it's her property that's the
Okay.
use is for.
Remember when we did one on Minnetonka and Jim Rhodey?
Yeah.
Owner had to-
Yeah, I thought they both had to sign.
We did it with the campground.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Have they asked all the neighbors and stuff? Okay, behind
I had to send a letter out. I did that actually more than the 10 days because of the holiday. So I sent a letter within the 200 square feet of the property.
So do we have any of those responses or anyone that?
They would have responded to you.
And
So
we're
we just
here.
had a sign posted, items.
We're here.
Oh, they're there.
They're over there.
Okay.
Ladies are in the back.
Is there any more questions for Melanie?
How many children are you going to have?
The state says I can have up to 12. I won't go more than 10.
And the ages?
0 to whatever.
And are you the only caretaker or will you have help?
In the summer, my daughter helps me out, but she's 15, so she can't be technically there. I have to be there. And then I have a friend that works for the school district who, like, if I have a dentist appointment or something, she comes in. And that way, since she works for the school district, she's already been FBI and fingerprinted and everything also.
All right, I have one now. I appreciate what you're doing. We still need childcare. I'm noticing on your certificate of liability insurance, it says coverage is for up to 6 children, but you plan to have more?
I can have 10. They're supposed to be changing that along with, they also got the addresses mixed up. But when I call the company because they're not in South Dakota, it takes 7 to 14 days to change.
So this will be updated?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Because I also have to get Carol for her insurance, a copy of that.
Will you provide the city an updated copy when you
Yeah,
receive
I
it?
can do that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this? Do something.
I would.
Okay.
Me too.
Ellen, thank you for your time. Ellen, take your bag with you, please. Come on down. Thank you.
Okay, as a homeowner.
So if you would state your name and address, please.
Cheryl Lathrop. My address is 904 South Chicago.
Cheryl, I didn't catch your last name.
Lathrop, Lathrop. As a homeowner down in the area that she wants to put her daycare, number one, it says an in-home daycare, she does not live there. So that puts it in a whole different zoning area, doesn't it? I mean, if you're doing an in-home daycare, you have to live in the home. Am I correct or am I wrong? So it's not zoned for commercial. And if you're opening a daycare preschool, isn't that a commercial property then? Plus, we're going to have increased traffic, increased noise. Where her mobile home is setting is right on a ditch that is famous for snakes and meth addicts walking through it. I don't think it's a good, safe environment for children. And the traffic down there has greatly increased, and people race down there like they're going down Indianapolis 500. And I just have questions on how she can open an in-home daycare without living in the home.
A previous council has approved one of these use on review permits for a similar situation. The person that was actually providing the daycare in the home didn't live in the home at the time. And the council was satisfied that all the requirements had been met, and they did approve that particular one.
Okay. Steve?
That's about what I was going to say.
And that's how we all feel. It's like
Yes.
everybody down in that neighborhood, you know. And the noise is greatly increased, and they opened it before they came here. It's been open for over 2 weeks, I know that for a fact.
But does that open a can of worms where you can open any business in a residential area? I mean, that's...
Can I get your name?
My name's Steve Gross.
Yeah.
Heard her say Steve, and I thought I remember that. Thank you.
So, Cheryl, do you have any more comments for the council? All right.
Take my
If you would, please. And sir, if you have some comments, if you'd come up and share your name and address with us, please.
Okay, my name's Steve Gross. I own 810 South Chicago, right next door. Well, gully's right there. She'll have the fence up. I'm here with an open mind, but I don't see how you can approve a daycare, and I don't have anything against the daycare, but when they don't live there. I mean, so can you open other businesses in a house?
The allowable uses for use permits are spelled out in the ordinance, so not just any.
Just not any.
But daycare is all listed.
Without anybody living there?
Still a home, right?
It's a home.
Yes, I think you end up getting into the semantics of in-home, in their home, in a home. And that's the whole idea behind the use on review permit, is if the council feels it's worth a shot, to go ahead and see if it will work out. And then it's up to them to decide whether the use of the property is being, according to their guidelines, and decide whether they want to continue the use on that.
Your last name again, please?
Gross.
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 I guess I've got a question. Is this property truly, is that zone residential? I guess maybe Scott can tell us that, because if it is, we got another problem sitting there. Unless the electrical business did a use on review, how are they operating there?
Scott?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Wes's question is, the property 702 Houston Avenue, is that zoned residential?
At this point, I say yes. I don't have a map in front of me, but yeah. It's residential.
I guess we've got another question we're going to have to answer on this situation here.
That entire area is residential.
No, part of it's further on down the street. I believe it's all commercial.
Yeah, like 3 blocks down, but South Chicago and South 6th Street are both residential areas.
Well, I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
In between on Houston.
I can't capture all this for the public hearing because I don't know who's speaking there, so unless you come to the microphone and state your name, please don't shout out, because I'm supposed to capture everything for the public hearing.
So Wes, your question has to do with electrical?
Well, I'm just curious, I guess, did they come in and applied for use on review to have their business there, or?
No, there has not been a use on review for that property, but it was a business prior to them owning it. So without looking at the zoning map, because that's not my area of expertise, I would say they wouldn't.
No, it was a private residence before they moved there.
The electrical place?
Yes.
Dairy Queen?
Dairy Queen, no, this is not Dairy Queen buildings.
Yeah, that's on.
Isn't this South Six?
This is Houston Avenue, I thought.
Houston's
Oh, okay.
over there.
Okay.
702 Houston.
Aren't most of our daycares located in residential areas in town, historically and presently?
There's one on University.
That's not there anymore.
How big is it?
It's not there anymore. The one at the base of the Viaduct.
Oh, I thought it opened back up.
That's the Boys and Girls Club now.
Huh?
But most of them that I've been aware of have been in residential areas
We
historically.
just approved one in Minnetonka a month ago.
That was them. That was her.
Oh, yeah. So they're moving it to different location.
There's another one on Clark Alley that was just recently approved, which is down over by Sherman Street. That's in a residential area too. And it's an alley, and it got approved.
Steve, do you have any more comments for us?
Yeah, I just would like to see it fenced. If this is a done deal, it needs to be fenced off. I've got property right next to it, and I don't want to be liable for kids rolling over onto my property.
Understandable.
Well, until the council votes one way or another, it's not a done deal, and if they would like to put stipulations on it, you're certainly free to do that, I would believe.
Well, I thought she said she was waiting for them to mark where they could build a fence.
Thank you.
Remember right?
Okay, my name is Dawn Johnson, and I don't live within the city limits, but I have in the past owned a licensed, South Dakota state licensed childcare, daycare, home daycare. I would like to state that if she follows through with everything that the state requires, and she has her degree in early childhood development through the state of South Dakota, that she will be more than qualified, and the state of South Dakota will make sure that she follows all safety guidelines and takes care of the business appropriately. That's what I have. If she's following those guidelines, she will have a safe place for children to be.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Dawn.
Greg Faust, I live at 941 Houston.
Name again, please?
941 Houston, Greg Faust. First of all, I know Melanie. I've known Melanie for a couple of years through our church. I think she's fine, outstanding person. Carol Wilson is also a member of our church that owns the property. These are fine women who want to see children grow up in this community and be safe and be educated and cared for while the parents can work. I drive up and down that cul-de-sac, that area all the time. Our mailbox is on Chicago Street. Even though we're at the west end of Houston, we have to go down to Chicago to get mail. So I'm driving down Houston and Chicago to bypass River Street, all of those. And yes, there are some problems with traffic, but that's not going to change whether there's a child care center or not. I know Melanie will have all safety precautions taken care of and to take care for the children under her care. I have no problems with this use review application. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Any more discussion from the council?
As long as the public knows that the reason why we call it use permit on review is if there is issues, we bring it back to the council and we will review what the problems are. So that everybody does have a chance to come back later on.
Anyone else? All right. Is someone ready to make a motion to approve, reject, or table the action?
I make a motion to approve the use on permit review for Carol L. Wilson and Melanie Adcock, tenant to operate a home preschool / daycare at 702 Houston Avenue in Hot Springs.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Good luck, Melanie. Do we have any communications from the public?
Can you hear me okay, or do I need to raise it up?
We can hear you. How about the folks out in the audience?
A little louder.
A little louder?
Yeah, maybe up.
How's that? Is that good?
Better.
My name is Philip Shively. My address is 12919 Zion Street. I live about 2 miles north of city limits. I'm a reserve police officer here in town, and I just want to start a conversation with the council. First, thank you guys for volunteering your time to be on this council. I appreciate the work that you guys do here. For several years, I've been encouraging the community to come and talk to you, and it dawned on me this 4th of July that I have not done what I've encouraged them to do, and I don't know if anybody has come or not. I haven't heard anybody as I've sat in the shadows in the back during some of the city council meetings. But regarding, I just want to open a conversation with you guys, and this is not judgmental at all. This is, I hope to be a blessing and encouragement to you. But I want to read a quote from John Adams. The second day of July, 1776, the 2nd of July is when they voted on the Declaration of Independence. The 4th of July is when they wrote it, and it took a long time to get it signed. So that's why John is referencing the 2nd of July rather than the 4th, because it wasn't until a year later that they celebrated on the 4th. But 2nd day of July, 1776 will be the most memorable epica, that's the noun meaning epic, epicness in the history of America. I'm apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be commemorated as a day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, illuminations, from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. You will think me transported with enthusiasm, but I am not. I am well aware of the toil and blood and treasure that it will cost us to maintain this declaration and support and defend these states. Yet through all the gloom, I see the rays of ravishing light and glory. I see that the end is more than worth all the means, and that posterity will triumph in that day's transaction, even though we should rue it, which I trust in God we shall not. So John started out elated with the celebration, but he says it came with a great cost. And I hope we realize what that cost is going forward. So every year during the 4th of July, I love copping. I wanted to be a cop since I was 4 years old. Ryan Sturdivant several years ago asked me, hey, you ever consider being a cop? I'm like, yeah, since I was 4. And after the conversation, he said, don't get so excited. It doesn't pay anything. I said, that's okay. I love doing what I do, except on the 4th of July, when I have to go around and tell people not to celebrate. And this 4th of July was particularly difficult when I came up to a group at Butler Park who were happy and celebrating. When I rolled up, I said, hey guys, how's it going? Oh, great, our son just came back from Iraq a week ago. We are having an awesome time. We're gonna clean up. We're good to go. And I still had to drop the bomb on them. They took it very well. And I encouraged them to come and start a conversation, and I realized I need to come start a conversation. So I don't know what it would take to maybe open up Butler Park, water it for a few days beforehand, and let the community come to celebrate the 4th of July, celebrate our freedom, our independence. Of all the towns in America that I could be a reserve police officer, I am most grateful to God that I am one here in Hot Springs, because this is the veterans town. One of my bucket list things that I never got to do was serve in the military. I'm still trying to get into the National Guard, but I got a bad knee and I'm too old, so I'm still working on that. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so instead of going to the military, I was overseas in Papua New Guinea for 10 years as a tribal missionary. And we came back from New Guinea here to Hot Springs, South Dakota, and in Hot Springs, South Dakota is where I first tasted freedom, because I was born in a communistic country. We escaped there, my wife and we only go back to California to visit her parents. I can say that because I was born there. I tasted freedom here in Hot Springs, South Dakota, true freedom for the first time, and I love this place. And I absolutely get sick to my stomach when I have to tell vets that just got back, you can't celebrate. So I want to open up a conversation, and I don't know what that looks like. Maybe you guys can tell me what that looks like. But hey, we have almost a year to have this conversation. So I'm open for questions if you have any, or else I'll just go back and sit down.
We celebrated Butler Park one year, and it took the city almost a week and a half to clean it up because nobody picked up their stuff. It was pretty ugly.
I talked to a group, a family. I ride my bicycle up and down the bypass during the fireworks and try to keep people off the streets and try to keep the semis over in the far lane. It's an amazing thing to be able to turn my red and blue lights on and manipulate semis with my bicycle, but that's another story. I came across the family on the driveway down to the dump after everything was over, and there was about 6 or 7 of them there, and they were picking up all their stuff that they had set off. And I appreciate that. And I know there's insurance things, there's liability things, there's a lot to consider here. This isn't just a, hey, yeah, rah, rah, let's do it. But I would be willing to, in the next year, find a group of people that would even come the next morning and police the grounds from one end to the other to clean it up, so it would not be on the city's dime. Okay?
I'm with you, Phil.
Thank you, Wes.
It may be easier than we think, Phil, because I think there's a provision in the parks ordinance that fireworks can be shot off at the park with a permit. And so it may be a matter of communicating and setting some parameters on what that permit looks like as far as cleanup and some other things. So I would think that conversation can be continued.
Awesome.
My opinion.
Thank you, guys.
I'm encouraged. Bill? Also did.
I'm encouraged to hear 2 of our council express an interest in starting the conversation and that you're willing to do that. I heard it said a while back that government needs to find a way to say yes rather than a way to find no, or a way to say no.
Absolutely.
So let's have that conversation. And from a safety standpoint and a park standpoint, you got 2 people on board that need to be there. I certainly think it makes sense. To Craig's point, Butler Park used to be used for celebrations for the longest time. And I wasn't sure why that stopped. But if that's what it is, then we need to figure an answer to that. So let's have the conversation. I got the note down, and we'll go from there.
I'll come by this week and drop my contact information off with you.
Thank you for challenging us and hold us to it.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else? All right, let's go on to personnel. I'd like to take it in 2 groups. I'd like to get a motion to approve personnel actions A through C and F through V, and then we'll come back and we'll do D and E, and I'll explain why I'd like to do it that way when we get there. I can get your folks' assistance with that.
Make a motion to approve personnel actions A through C.
I'll second.
Second one.
And if we could include in that item or personnel actions F through V. We'll do them in 2 groups. A through C and F through V.
That motion includes A through C and F through V.
Yep.
Second.
I got seconded by Romeo already, right?
All right.
I couldn't draw. I got a question.
Okay, any discussion?
I got a question. These used to say if they're part-time or full-time. A lot of these people we don't know, so we don't know if they're getting their longevity pay or whatever. Is there any way we can put that back on this?
Sure.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion passed. Okay. Then we're going to need a motion for items D through E. The reason that I've asked to separate these 2 is you had a handout on your table tonight about the qualifications for these 2 individuals. And I thought it was important that you see their qualifications. If you have any questions or concerns regarding those qualifications, please keep it at the 10,000-foot level. We will be talking about, you'll be talking about personnel. We need to make sure that we don't divulge anything we shouldn't. If you want to get in depth in any of those, we can certainly go into executive session and answer your questions.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve personnel actions D and E as specified.
Second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, did you want to change the rate that is listed on the agenda for these employees?
Yes.
And then I need to move by a second if I after we clarify the rate at which they'll be hired at, please.
No. The reason we provided the experience is the recommendation is to hire these people at the 91% level. There's 5 pay levels, 80%, 86, 91, and 100. Is that correct?
There's a couple more in the middle there,
Okay.
95 and 98.
Based on their qualifications, the recommendation is to hire them at $11.55 an hour rather than the entry level.
Do I need to amend that motion?
Yes.
You just agree to it, that's fine.
So let me just restate that I'd like to entertain a motion to approve personnel actions as specified with the change rate of pay per hour at $11.55. That's items D and E.
Do I need to second that again?
As long as you're okay with it, that'd be great.
All right, any discussion? All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That takes us down to the committee reports. There's not going to be as many this time around because we've had a change in council. So some folks haven't had a chance to have their meetings yet. As part of my mayor report, I'll announce the committee assignments. But we'll go through these and get the ones that we can. Administrative and finance, that will happen, is scheduled right now for next Monday, 1 o'clock. Airport Advisory Committee, Bill, did you have a?
Yes, I do. The Airport Advisory Committee met on Thursday, June 25th, 8 a.m. at the airport. Present were Larry Vetterman, John Nash, John O'Connor, Shane Miller, Ivan Venner. From the city, Ed Jensen, John Gregory, Tracy Bastian, and I attended via phone. On the agenda, the new QT pod for the fueling system was installed on June 6th and it is functioning very well. Item 2, we continued to discuss the possibility of installing a tank and equipment to sell Jet A. Currently, we're looking at the possibility of placing a single wall tank in the existing secondary containment along with the avgas tank. If there's adequate volume, this may provide a lower cost option that would not require a double wall tank. This will be reviewed with the appropriate regulatory agencies as it will also require an update to the SPCC plan. The committee was updated on the council's action regarding the hangar design project. Tom Koch and Brad Remick with the South Dakota Department of Transportation Aeronautics Division conducted an airport inspection on June 17th. We also discussed the need for a second exit from the old hangar, a review of the building code based on the current activity in the hangar is needed before a determination can be made whether that second exit is needed. In June, 2 single-engine air tankers or seaplanes were located at the airport. A decision will be made in early July if the seaplanes will be stationed in Hot Springs for the entire fire season or just remain there on an on-call basis. The committee discussed if they would like to plan any activities for the upcoming balloon festival, and they decided they would not do so. Sorry about that. There is a planned fly-in for September 10th through the 13th, and the organizers stated that there's about 150 pilots have indicated interest in attending that fly-in. John Nash tendered his resignation, which was accepted by the committee. He expressed his appreciation of the work that the group has done to improve the operation of the airport. In June, fuel sales have been 961.7 gallons, and through June 25th, there were 130 flight operations. The meeting adjourned at 9:30, and our next meeting will be Thursday, July 30th, 8 a.m. at the airport.
Thank you, Bill. We don't have Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management District. John, did you attend that?
Our next meeting will be Thursday at 7 o'clock.
All right. Downtown Historic Preservation. Craig, did you folks meet?
There was no meeting. Oh, no meeting. The next meeting is August 5th.
Evans Plunge Advisory Committee, that was Allison's. Parks, Recreation, Beautification, and Cultural Development. Dave, did you folks meet?
Yes, we just basically go through what was going on in the park. We do have a couple.
What's going on now?
We do have some lights that are out on the tennis court and the basketball court that we're having electricians come and check. We are still working on the gate / fencing that we're for that gap in there. And then we just discussed basically some of the stuff that's going on for the softball and them cleaning up as far as keeping it clean and running the same process as they are in the league for COVID safety. That's pretty much it. Wasn't much on this one.
Next meeting?
That'll be up to Wes, whether or not whoever's going to take it over.
He doesn't know that yet. But congratulations. Planning and zoning, that will be determined. Public safety, Bill?
Okay, public safety met on 1 o'clock on Wednesday, June 17th, here at the Mueller Center. In attendance were Mayor Cotty, myself, John Gregory, Chief Close, Safety Coordinator Lori Sherrard, Fall River Emergency Manager Frank Maynard, and one member of the public. Under old business, the committee reviewed again a request by a member of the public to change the informational signs on the side streets adjacent to the school zone on University Avenue from when children are present to during school hours. It was determined that the signage should remain as is since it is consistent with guidance from the U.S. Department of Transportation Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Hours that children are present are variable, and enforcement of the school speed zone limit, especially for non-residents, is not an issue. We'll pursue installing a sign on South 20th Street as there's no sign there now. An update was provided to the committee of a meeting that was held on June 16th with the school superintendent, Dennis Fisher, regarding the potential for a contract between the school district and the city for a part-time school resource officer. And I'll be providing an update of that meeting with the Admin Finance Committee next week. Under new business, Chief Close provided 3 options regarding police car markings. Option 1 being the contrasting markings that are on the existing Dodge Charger at a cost of about $300 per vehicle for 4 black vehicles. Option 2 being the existing subdued markings on the 2019 Dodge Charger and Durango at a cost of about $300 per vehicle for 3 remaining black vehicles. Option 3 is a wrapped design with the American flag on the sides, the shoulder patch design on the hood, along with the Veterans Town, police on the sides, and In God We Trust on the back bumper. The per vehicle cost for this option is $1,147.97, and 5 vehicles would need the markings. None of the existing white vehicles would receive these markings as they will be the first to be retired. The committee unanimously selected option 3 as it not only addresses public comments received by the council, but it makes a positive statement for our community, and by using the wraps, it will help resale value when the vehicles are retired. The new Durango will be outfitted with the new markings, and the other black vehicles will be changed as funds are identified and made available. The pickup will be changed after the new Durango is marked. City Hall front desk safety and security concerns were discussed, and John is working a plan to address those issues. We discussed a deer population survey to be conducted by South Dakota Fish and Game. Surveys have been done in 2018 and 2019. The last harvest, because of overpopulation, was done in 2009, in which about 100 deer were harvested from the city limits. As part of the deer population discussion, we discussed whether the city should renew the agreement with South Dakota Game and Fish regarding the use of the animal pit. It was a recommendation by Public Safety Committee that that agreement not be renewed. Public Safety will take on a revision to the nuisance ordinance to add 2 new sections, one dealing with acceptable hours for excessive noise and the other dealing with declaration of emergencies such as pandemics. The need for daycare, requirements for daycare facilities was discussed. A visitor to our community had contacted, on another item, a visitor to our community had contacted the city administrator with concerns regarding one of the local lodging facilities. John has contacted the Chamber of Commerce, who shared the concern with the owner of that facility, and that concern is being worked. A member of the community requested a no parking sign be placed on Thompson Avenue to help draw attention to the existing no parking zone marked by a yellow curb, as there have been many violations in the area, and it was agreed that a sign should be placed as requested. Fall River County Emergency Manager Frank Maynard discussed concerns over the current weather patterns and the fire danger in the southern hills in Fall River County and the associated restrictions on open burning. Chief Close provided an update on recent activities. Back in May, the prom went well. There was a recent high-speed pursuit that was called off for safety concerns. The Zurcher system that was approved continues to work, and the training should be done in a couple of months. During the recent insurance inspection, a representative provided links to some very good online training. The new Durango is at Wendell's being outfitted. With the heat, we are seeing more public intoxication. However, to date, we're seeing fewer alcohol-related incidents at Brookside Park since the revised ordinance went into place. The mobile radar sign was moved up to the State Home, and since then has been moved to the Wind Cave Highway. Chief Close thanked Mayor Cotty for all he had done for law enforcement and his objective look at complaints. And in May, the officers responded to 508 calls. Meeting adjourned at 2:30 p.m. Our next meeting is Wednesday, July 15th, 1 p.m. at City Hall.
The next committee report is Public Works, and that's me. This will be the last time you have to listen to me drone on about a Public Works report. Reporting on it seems to take as long as the meetings themselves sometimes, but we had a meeting on June 30th. Mueller Center. Craig was present, Dave, John Gregory, Tracy, Scott, Billy Maurer, and myself. We had a number of new business items. Committee discussed an excessive water pressure issue at Stay USA. Tracy, Sean, and myself will meet with the manager of Stay USA to see what can be done to address the pressure problem. Billy talked with the committee about drainage issues on Valley View Drive. With the recent rains, the city crews have repaired washouts along the road a number of times. Billy is recommending a total of 8 24-inch culverts be installed, along with riprap rock and millings to help correct the washout problems. The street department would like to begin the work in mid-August if their schedule allows. Craig raised a number of issues. Talked about overgrown weeds on a property on Edgewood Terrace. Trees between Albany and Baltimore Avenue on 5th Street, growing between the curb and the retaining wall. And camping in city parks not allowed by ordinance. Dave talked about a property on West University Avenue with multiple ordinance violations. Scott will follow up with on the ordinance issues raised by Craig and Dave, and Craig will talk with the property owner about the trees. Some old business items, our favorite ordinance regarding traffic code, that's still kicking around. With any kind of luck, we'll be able to pass this on to another council and see what their kind of decision is on that. We need to get this resolved, and hopefully it will be in discussion one more time. And then the suggested changes, put in your info packets to see whether you like the ideas or not, and offer your comments. The street department is scheduled to begin their annual repainting of crosswalks and intersections throughout town. Because of the current workload for the street department, they will focus on the important crosswalks and intersections and paint the school crosswalks prior to the start of school at the end of summer. We talked about adding some verbiage to the Welcome to Hot Springs signs. John received a quote from Conrad Signs to add the Veterans Town to the 3 Welcome to Hot Springs signs. The quote for that work is $3,332.66. This is a higher quote than anticipated, so the committee talked about adding a request to fund the cost to the 2021 budget. Jennings Bridge construction, still hearing from the public. I want to remind them that that construction work is due to start in mid-July. The suspension sidewalk, the drilling for test holes has begun along North River Street. It was last Thursday, I believe, and they were out there today. The folks saw some drilling rigs out there. That's related to the suspension sidewalk. The mobile vendor truck parking at Evans Plunge. No parking signs and barricades need to be installed at that location, and one water manifold has been installed. The city needs to perform a final inspection of the punch list items completed by the contractor for the Golden West Fiber Optic Project. And I believe that is scheduled for tomorrow. The Mueller Center heating system, we're trying to keep it as warm as we can so you folks don't get too cold. The materials for replacing the heat exchanger grid have arrived, and the city staff will begin assembling the materials this week to get that heat exchanger grid taken care of. Hopefully as soon as possible it'll be a little more comfortable in here for our meetings. Garden Street, city crews are busy widening Garden Street for emergency access during the Jennings Bridge replacement project. It was necessary to remove some vegetation and add some riprap rock along the east side of the road. Additional large rock will be added on the east side of the road to provide a safety barrier to prevent vehicles from driving into the river. Canton Avenue, the Canton Avenue housing site work is progressing with foundations for 2 governors' homes recently completed, and the homes are expected to arrive in mid-July. We've talked about trying to start down the road of automating our water meter readings throughout town. Tracy talked with the committee about converting existing water meters to a radio read meter at an approximate cost of about $150 a meter. This would be a first step in making it easier to read meters covered by snow in the boulevards from the snow plows during the winter months. Tracy believes the water department budget might be able to support purchasing about 100 of the meters yet this year. The committee also feels future yearly budgets should begin budgeting to replace a fixed number of the meters until all the meters have been upgraded. Scott is making progress on the Evans Street ordinance violations. The improvements at the wastewater treatment plant are complete. Tracy talked with the committee about Light Up Our Town's request to hang banners at various locations across Main Street using the new streetlights. Tracy spoke with DOT and was told the streetlights aren't strong enough to support the additional weight of the banners. Because the new highway is also partially funded with federal dollars, the language that can be used on the banners is limited. Light Up Our Town will need to supply their own poles to hang the banners on and will fund the cost of the poles themselves. A number of locations were discussed and will be shared with Light Up Our Town, and Light Up Our Town will contact DOT personally about language that can be used on the banners. The next Public Works meeting is scheduled for July 4th, pending a change from the new chair.
Next meeting is July.
July 14th.
Thank you.
It's the next scheduled one. Southern Hills Economic, we don't have a report there. And Southern Hills Golf Course Advisory Committee, we don't have a report there. So that takes us to our next agenda item. Under ordinances, need a motion for the second reading of ordinance 1214, the supplemental appropriation ordinance.
Make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 1214, supplemental appropriation ordinance.
Second.
Any discussion? Misty, will you do a roll call, please?
David Burris,
Yes.
Wes Grimes,
Nay.
J.R. Huddleston,
Yes.
Deborah Johnston,
Yes.
Bill Lukens,
Yes.
Larry Pratt,
Yes.
Craig Romey,
Yes.
Caitlin Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moves us into our resolutions. Need a resolution, or a motion for resolution 2020-20, a resolution authorizing the execution of contractual documents with the state of South Dakota for the receipt of CARES Act funds. Not everyone all at once.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-20, a resolution authorizing the execution of contractual documents with the state of South Dakota for the receipt of CARES Act funds to address the COVID-19 public health crisis.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Need a motion for resolution 2020-21, South Dakota Department of Transportation Community Access Grant Program, resolution for support of street improvements, 17th, 19th, Lincoln, Washington, and Jennings.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-21, South Dakota DOT Community Access Grant Program Resolution of Support as needed improvements to 17th, 19th, Lincoln, Washington, and Jennings Avenues.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Takes us to new business. New business item A. Possible motion or discussion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local government COVID Recovery Fund reimbursement agreement between the city of Hot Springs and the South Dakota Bureau of Finance and Management.
Make a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local government COVID Recovery Fund reimbursement agreement between the city of Hot Springs and the South Dakota Bureau of Finance and Management.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We deleted item B. Takes us to item C. Possible motion and discussion to approve the 2020-18 agreement between the city of Hot Springs and the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs. Nope. South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs, so that's the state home, allowing the city to use approximately 20,000 cubic yards of stockpiled rock. Yep.
I make a motion to approve the 2020-18 agreement between the City of Hot Springs and the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs, allowing the city to use approximately 20,000 cubic yards of stockpiled rock and soil material for the use of our USACE Fall River Flood Control Channel for stream bank and basin stabilization and maintenance.
I second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item D, a possible motion, discussion to set budget hearing dates for July 28th and July 30th, beginning at 5 p.m. each day.
I'll make a motion to set the budget hearing dates for July 28th and 30th, beginning at 5 p.m. each day, with additional days to be added if needed, to be held at the Mueller Civic Center.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item E, a possible motion and discussion to approve changing the Wells Fargo Bank of the West First Interstate South Dakota Fit account signature cards.
I make a motion to approve changing the Wells Fargo, Bank of the West, First Interstate, and South Dakota Fit account signature cards to remove George Cotty and add the newly appointed 2021 Council President and Vice President.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item F, possible motion discussion to set a public hearing for July 20th, 2020 at 7:10 PM to hear the variance request from John Culberson and JR Builders for property on Clubhouse Drive.
Make a motion to set a public hearing for July 20, 2020 at 7 p.m. to hear the variance request from John Culberson with J&R Builders for property on Clubhouse Drive in the Back Nine subdivision, lot number 3.
7:10.
And that's 7:10 PM.
7:10 p.m.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item G, possible motion discussion to set a public hearing for July 20th, 2020 at 7:20 PM to hear the variance request from Wally Cottrell.
I'll entertain a motion to set a public hearing 7/20/20 and 7:20 PM to hear the variance request from Wally Cottrell for property at 106 Valley Drive.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item H, possible motion discussion to appoint Allison Ritterbush to the Planning Commission for a term of 5 years, 2020 through 2025.
I make a motion to appoint Allison Ritterbush to the Planning Commission for a term of 5 years from 2020 to 2025.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, do we ever put an ad in the paper looking for volunteers, or, I guess, years back, it was always just the same person put on there, term after term. That's kind of the way it's been, so I'm kind of curious, why don't we open this thing up and see if anybody else would be interested?
Fair question. I asked to have Allison put on here. She was on the board prior to being on the council. I felt like she represented the Planning Commission well while she was on council, and I thought she would continue doing that going forward. So to answer your question,
I would add that the public is always welcome to attend and be involved in all these committee meetings. So if there is a position open and somebody's been coming and shares an interest, that we haven't had to advertise for any open positions.
Well, the public a lot of times don't realize that we're looking for people beyond these committees.
any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Item I, possible motion and discussion to approve travel training request from Library Director Don Johnson to attend the Fred Pryor online seminar.
Make a motion to approve travel training request for the Library Director Don Johnson to attend Fred Pryor online seminar, Overcoming Negativity on 7/23/20.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Misty, you're up next.
Great, welcome to the new council members. We're so happy to have you. I prepare and present financials monthly to the councils in my memo. I encourage you to review the reports and please ask any questions you may have related to them. Although municipal financing can be a bit overwhelming, I try to make it as transparent and pain-free as possible. The financial memos you'll receive from me monthly are the year-to-date profit and loss summary report. Those review monthly and year-to-date revenue and expenditures by fund. When you review these, remember there's 26 separate departments in the general fund and they're all lumped together in this report. A more detailed breakdown of expenses by department is available at City Hall and updated monthly. but it's pretty big. It's about 54 pages, so I don't put it in these. You also receive a fund summary report. That is, it's to show you how we're doing compared to our plan or budget. It gives you the budget versus actual revenue and expenses. I also include a cash balance report that shows current balance by fund in our main Wells Fargo checking account. Cash in the bank doesn't always equal available or spendable cash, so please be sure to learn, know, and understand the difference. And investment reports by institution, by investment type, and these include all of the cash assets of the city. Again, not all cash is available. We have deposits on hold, gift card liabilities, debt service restrictions, statutory restrictions, and self-imposed restrictions on some of our cash assets. In addition to the monthly financials, I take the opportunity to highlight specific relevant topics in my monthly memo. And the memo through the end of June that's in front of you, I talk about our 2021 budget plannings. Thank you for scheduling those first meetings. This budget is required to be presented to the governing body by law at the first meeting in September. I have prepared the initial 2021 Excel spreadsheets, and after they're reviewed with our new mayor, they'll be distributed to the various department heads. During the month of July, we, that's John and I, or John or I, will meet with each department head and then with the entire team to review the proposed budget before presenting and reviewing with council. Preliminary budget information should be available to council by Friday, July 24th. I will email each of you the Excel spreadsheets, which are helpful for making changes in real time. And then I'll print the budget receipts from our accounting software. So you'll have an email, and hard copies will be available for pickup at City Hall on the 24th. The 2020 Elected Officials Workshop put on by the South Dakota Municipal League is scheduled for Wednesday, September 2nd to be held in Pier at the Ramkota Hotel and Convention Center. There are several sessions packed with valuable information for newly elected officials as well as those that have previously been in office. On this agenda is the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, who is the city's primary insurer, covering protecting public entities. The South Dakota Municipal League Work Comp Group will present. That's also who provides our workers' compensation insurance. They discuss municipal officials and employees, bids and contracts, financial and compliance matters, open meetings, and executive session do's and don'ts. And there's a conflict of interest for municipal officials. Social distancing will be practiced throughout the training. Plated lunch is provided. Registrations are due by August 15th. Let me know if you're interested in attending. And also the 2020 budget training put on by the Municipal League is scheduled for this Thursday, July 9th. It will be virtual this year, and a replay will be available on the SDML website. I'd like you all to know that the SDML workshops, trainings, and meetings are always beneficial, and we encourage attendance if you can make it. Governor Nome recently shared plans for the state of South Dakota COVID relief funds. The amount identified for Hot Springs is $791,000. These funds are designated to support reimbursement of necessary and allowable expenditures related to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Reimbursement of costs associated with public safety or our police department personnel expenses will most likely be our largest reimbursable item. Thank you for approving the resolution and the agreement on this agenda related to those funds. Previous Mayor Cotty asked that I track and report on the impacts of the pandemic on revenue collection throughout our city. In the month of June, the virus continued to impact our local economy. The city's summer recreation program has begun a limited program including golf, baseball, nature walk project, pickleball, and tennis. Collection of revenue year-to-date is $2,100, which is down 80%. Mueller Center revenue is down 45%, or $3,200. Library revenue is down 32%, or $2,200. Evans Plunge Mineral Springs was able to reopen on the 15th of June, and that's great. People are coming. They've had to turn a few people away to keep within the number restrictions, but we're happy to see them opening. Revenue in that fund is down 72%, or $200,000. Bid revenue is down 24% or $3,000. That's our occupancy tax on motels, hotels, one-night stay places in town. Southern Hills Golf Course revenue is up 13% or $24,000 at the end of June. And our general sales and use tax revenue is up 1.5% or $10,000. The gross receipts tax, it's kind of tied to tourism, is down 9.2% or $4,000. And I talked a little bit about the revenue being down in the plunge. We do have a plan, if needed, related to making up the revenue losses at the facility for 2021, or I'm sorry, for 2020. In March of this year, the council passed a resolution to refund or refinance and reissue the existing sales tax revenue bonds from the 2013 purchase of the facility. Initially, we intended to make all 2020 payments according to the current bond issue, but due to recent events and revenue losses, we're now considering amending the resolution to include the December about $115,000 payment in the refunding. We'll be reviewing and discussing this item at the July 13th Administrative and Finance Committee. I want to make you all aware of the discussion, as an amending resolution will be required to be passed by the council if we decide to take this route. If you're interested in any additional information about this refunding, please don't hesitate to ask. I go over some ordinances that we've been looking at revising when you were giving your committee report. Alderman Lukens, I remember the other one was noise in the nuisance, and that's not listed on here, but we'll get that listed on there so we continue to follow that. And thank you and welcome, and we're happy to have you, and I'm interested in seeing what committees and things that you find you're passionate in and help keep moving Hot Springs forward. We're happy to have you.
Hey, Misty,
Yeah.
we don't do that payment on the plunge. What kind of interest is that going to cost the city?
Well, they can't offer a refunding unless we're saving significantly. And if you remember my last report, when we made the decision in May or in March to go forward with it and not include that final amount, we were going to reduce our term and save about $200,000 in interest. We still have the ability to save a significant amount of interest. I don't have the calculation if we include that dollar amount yet, but we will have it by the admin finance meeting, and I'll do a full presentation on the differences before you vote to approve the amending resolution.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else for Misty? All right. John, you're up.
I do want to welcome the new council and Mayor Nelson. Look forward to our time together. It's been busy since our last council meeting. ISG progress on the suspended sidewalk design elements is proceeding. Geotechnical study is being done. They're coming up tomorrow. We've also been working on 4 regional permitting items. Those 2 are nearing completion. Tried to find some data on how those existing walls were constructed. Found a lot of interesting information that the city of Hot Springs put in walls in front of City Hall in 1921, and when the flood took them out, they had to replace them in 1922. Some of the walls has a parapet architectural feature, and the 22 walls have the railings. Canton Avenue project, workforce housing is moving on. Health homes set to install. The governor's homes at mid to late July. Streets, parks, maintenance, cemetery, our labor pool is continuing work on Garden Street widening and improvements. We're working on park irrigation and sprinklers, particularly at Butler Park and the Freedom Trail. I'm sure a lot of people, if you're walking out there, have seen the recent improvements to the concrete that's been replaced and the siding that's been installed. We hope to get all that wrapped up pretty soon so we can be done with that portion of the project. Cemetery cleanup for the 4th of July involved all the city crew working together to get that accomplished. Fireworks show on July 4th went over very well, and following all the big storms we had on July 5th, they were out cleaning up trees all day today. The library is reopened to the public July 1st with the 2 new library clerks on board. They had 3 days to prepare to get ready to open up the library to the public, and they made the deadline. All worked well together. Been working on the joint agreements with the by the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs and the State Vet Home to obtain the rubble stockpile materials that we needed for our river enhancements, fixing the channel, fixing some of the slopes. That worked out. All the City of Hot Springs departments are adjusting to life after COVID. Evans Plunge is nearer to their phase 2 protocol timing. Southern Hills Golf Course is moving right along. City Hall reopened on July 1st. And the rec department has just recently resumed open gym activities. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'd like to address a number of issues. First thing I would like to do is talk about the July 4th parade. I want to recognize the volunteers, the event organizers, American Legion for the traffic control, the parade participants themselves, and the fire department. I thought the parade went well. I thought it was well attended. And it was particularly interesting to see the B-1 flyover. This year we got to see it coming rather than going. Last year we weren't sure when it was here, and all we heard was the sound after it went by. But I thought the July 4th parade went well. I want to thank everyone that was involved in making that happen. Likewise with the fireworks, the city employees that put on the fireworks, the bid board that gave the city an additional $5,000, which essentially doubled our amount for the fireworks. It was great fireworks. Again, the fire department for helping out with that. I want to acknowledge some donations to the library summer reading program. Pizza Hut donated $1,000, Ace Hardware $95, Chautauqua Artisans Market $253, Coffee Cup $1,140, 50 cents. Fall River Fibers $40, Woolies Grill and Cellar $65, Maverick Tire and Auto $50, an anonymous donation of $497, Girl Scouts $75, for a total donation to the Library Summer Reading Program raffle of $3,215. I mentioned the amounts not to pit one against the other, but it's important that everybody be acknowledged for what they're able to contribute. So I want to thank them for doing that. Peggy Warner donated to the some flags and books for $250. City email addresses. New council members, Misty, our IT folks, and Justin have been working on getting you your city email addresses. And that's the way that we'll communicate all things city related for you going forward. So we encourage you to use those, and I believe Missy's put together a how to do it sheet.
It's in the packet.
Committee assignments. Admin Finance, Caitlin, you get a promotion, going from co-chair to chair. That meeting currently meets second Monday at 1 o'clock. Airport Advisory Committee, Bill, I'd like to have you continue taking that committee. And that committee meets fourth Friday of every month at the airport at 8 o'clock.
Fourth Thursday.
Okay, fourth Thursday?
Last Thursday, whatever that happens to be.
All right. Custer Fall River Regional Waste Management District. John stepped up and said he'd like to take that committee. That meets the second Thursday of each month. John's comment was he likes talking trash, so he thought that would be a good committee for him. Downtown Historic Preservation Commission. Deborah, as you and I talked, if you would take that one for us. The other thing that Deborah and I talked about is currently she's on the Historic Preservation Commission as an appointed member. And I'm always conscious of the public's perception in everything that we do. And was concerned that Deborah being on there as a voting member and as a council member, some folks might think that she would either advocate too much or not enough. I was confident she wasn't going to do that, but again, perceptions are important to everybody. So she has said that she will be willing to step down from the Historic Preservation Committee. My commitment to her, because our terms overlap, she's with us for a year, and at the end of it, she may have decided that a year is enough, and she doesn't want to do it any longer. So if that's the case, My public commitment to her is that I will ask you folks to reappoint her to the Historic Preservation. She got on it because it's important to her, so I think she'll serve us well by being on that. Evans Plunge Advisory, Larry, if you'd take that one.
I've talked about one of the public safety.
We'll discuss that. No, we'll do that as a side conversation. But, if you take Evans Plunge, if you can work that in for me, I'd appreciate that. Sure. That's the second Thursday at 1 o'clock at the Plunge. Parks, Recreation, Beautification, and Cultural Development. Wes, you're the expert in all things parks. You've done that before. You helped with the parks main plan, so you know what's going on there. So if you would take that one, I would appreciate that. That meets the first Wednesday, 1 o'clock. I'd also ask that Dave, if you would continue working with Wes until the dog park is complete. We started that one. If you're asking him to stay involved until that was taken care of. Planning and Zoning Commission, Caitlin, we've talked about that one. You okay with taking that?
All right, yep.
All right, that one's the third Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Public Safety, Bill, you're currently on that one. And John, if you would co-chair that committee with Bill. That one meets the third Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Public Works, Dave, if you would take that one. And Craig, if you would co-chair that one with him. That one meets each Tuesday before the council meetings. Southern Hills Economic Development, I'm going to take that one. Southern Hills Golf Course Advisory Committee, I'm also going to take that one. The Fire Department, we're going to follow that one during our yearly budget deliberations. The Fire Department didn't always have a council representative, and the best that I can follow it back, the reason that we started having one is because the city donates a pretty good sum to the Fire Department, and they felt at that time that it would be important for council to follow that. I think we can do that at in our budget hearings. I talked with Dark Hoy about it, and he's okay with that. My intent in paring down the committee assignments, we previously had 12 of them, which meant that half the council had double committee assignments. This is a volunteer position, and as I said, it will take as much of your time as you allow it to. So my intent was to try to pare them down and not have as many of you on double committees as possible. So those are the committee assignments going forward. You folks are certainly free to adjust the days and the times to fit your schedule. I would ask that if at all possible, if you would still adhere to the July scheduled meetings. Those have been published publicly. They're on the city's website, so folks probably plan for when those meetings are going to be. But going forward, figure out what works best for your committees, and then let Mary know at City Hall when you've decided to have your committee meetings, and we'll continue following that schedule going forward. So that's all I have for you, which brings us to the executive session. So if I can get a motion to go into executive session for personnel and legal.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
You're supposed to list specifically the reason, the codified law and the subsection of the reason we're going into executive session.
Personnel and legal.
To be SDCL 1-25-21 personnel and 3 legal.
That's one.
Okay.
I was just getting ready to say that.
Second. I didn't second. Sorry.
Let me talk.
I'll second.
And for the public, there won't be any action taken after we come out of executive session. So first order, folks, let's take a short break. And we'll convene shortly. All right, we're from executive session at 10:11. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Who got the second?
Discussion?
Caitlin and
discussion going once? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Caitlin,